Today is Children's Day, and I guess it had made me stop and think about kids growing up in Singapore right now. Um, I don't know about you, but when we were growing up, don't you feel like things were slower, things were simpler? There was time for us to be bored, to make mistakes, to run around, fall, fail, and I think basically time for us to just figure things out, right? There was literally no pressure. I mean, there were pressures of school, but it's definitely not what it was or what it is currently now today here. And I'm just talking about 3 decades ago, so it's not like a super long time ago. Um, these days, the kids are kept more indoors. Um, their life is childhood became like a huge bit timetable, right? Everything gets super structured, from lessons to enrichment, um, and it's no more fun, and I guess I have a lot of things to say about education, which I'll keep for another video. Um, for me, kids in Singapore go to school to take exams, and they don't go to school to hone their creativity. Don't go to school to because they're excited to learn, right? Um, they are taught in school how to take exams or how to answer questions in a certain way. They're not taught how to think for themselves. The whole critical thinking skills to problem solve. I think I can only comment about the primary school level, but I kind of know what's going on in secondary school as well, but and of course the higher education. But it's really apparent in primary school that it is not completely not ideal. I'll keep that for another video. But I mean, I guess today, I brought my nieces and nephew and my daughter out. Not my nephew because he was sick today, so I brought my nieces and my daughter out, and I thought about when I was their age, right? It wasn't filled with material things. The whole consumerism wasn't present. There were not so many malls in Singapore. Life was so much simpler. There were open spaces, there were parks, and weekends were about spending time with our loved ones, with the company of our friends, doing very simple things. There were gadgets and all, right? We had the Nintendo and all, but it's definitely not like how it is today. Um, so when I look at my daughter right now, I really don't know how this whole past couple of years has affected her being curious to learn. As I try my best not to put so much pressure on her, but sometimes it's inevitable when you get a text message in the class group chat, and then I start panicking, like, have I done enough? Um, or why is all the parents so worried about this when I'm not, right? So am I not putting enough pressure on her? I mean, I want her to succeed, right? I want her to get to pass at the very least. I don't need her to get like the best grades. But it is really hard. It is really hard to try to not care about grades while being in the public system. So um as parents, I think we're also guilty of wanting the best, right? But what is the best? You know, the best is subjective across the board, and the best does not mean having to provide them with more things. The best is also does not mean that uh they have to get a good grade, right? But maybe it isn't more about more lessons or more enrichment or more things in general, but maybe as parents we should allow them space to breathe, allow them space to make mistakes, and allow them to perhaps just let them go figure things out on their own. So if there's one thing that I want to constantly remind myself today is that I want to be able to make sure that my daughter has the space to grow, space for her to fail and fall and not let the pressures of the world be at the top of your head and at the top of her head, and we allow her to be free, if that's even possible in this crazy country of ours. So yeah, I think today, for all children out there, and I think for all parents as well, is to remind ourselves that, they shouldn't need to grow up so fast, and just because the world is moving faster doesn't mean they need to move faster as well.